Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast and Podcast. I have an interesting guest for you today. I love it when I have the opportunity to sit down with a one-on-one interview with guests that have been on the Roundtable Talk Show. Our guest today definitely was. We learned a lot. But today we're going to learn a lot more. So before I go ahead and introduce her, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do. And that is to go ahead and share this show, because there's someone who needs this information. Maybe it will help them with their personal life, their business life, but I know they won't have it unless you go ahead and share the show with them. So I want to go ahead and introduce Barbara Paldus, Dr. Barbara Paldus. She is a Canadian-born of Czech parents, raised in both Europe and Canada. She's fluent in 5 languages with a Ph.D. from Stanford University. Dr. Barbara considers herself a global citizen. As a scientist, she believes in data and biotechnology. Codex was conceived from a need to deliver high-efficacy skincare collections that defy the mainstream with science-based, effective ingredients. From top to bottom, she's created a line that puts the plant power back in your hands with the results to back it up. Good afternoon, Dr. Barbara. How are you?
Good afternoon, Sharifah. Great to be back and talking to you.
Yes, I was so excited. I was so excited to have this opportunity because you don't know this. So let me tell you this. I have all of these great products, all of these, I got to put it on this side so you can see it, all of these wonderful products. I have them still in the box. And I said, you know what? I have absolutely no idea what to do with them. And I felt kind of silly. I felt like a little girl, but I said to myself, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak with Dr. Barbara. We're going to have an opportunity to sit down and talk. And I'm pretty sure she can give me some insights into all of these products. But before we get into that, please let our audience know who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about.
Sure. So my name is Barb Paldus. I usually go by Barb. And I've been now in beauty for 3 years. Before that, I was in biotech. I designed equipment, and my company that was sold in 2017 developed manufacturing equipment for making vaccines. So for example, the COVID vaccines from Pfizer and from J&J are manufactured in my equipment. So that's kind of where I come from. Before that, I made analytical equipment for measuring carbon dioxide in the air. And that's for global warming. So we've been tracking the carbon dioxide in our atmosphere for about 20 years. And I can tell you, Sharifah, it is increasing. So you can definitely see the impact that we're making as humans with our car emissions, our industrial emissions, our coal burning. It's real. So my passion is actually sustainability. So that's one of my huge passions, is kind of bringing science, educating, but also we need to make sure we have a planet for our kids.
Do you find it odd that there are people who still do not believe in global warming? Like, is this conspiracy theory that came out of nowhere?
You know, if you look at 400 years ago, a lot of people thought the Earth was flat. And today we know pretty unequivocally it's a sphere. And yet, if you look at how many people still think the Earth is flat today, it's probably about 10% of the population. So it's not a surprise, you know, with people who are afraid of vaccines, people who are afraid of GMO biotech products. I mean, it's just, you know, everyone has their opinion, and that's just the way it is. So no, I'm unfortunately not surprised.
They have their opinion, but we have the data to back it up.
Exactly, exactly. So I know what I'm going to believe anyway.
Yes. So how did you get into science? How did you get into this love and this passion? It was, I mean, and I tell people all the time, I'm very sexist. It doesn't seem very girly. It doesn't seem, you know, like there are a lot of women in this industry. So how did you get into it?
So first of all, when I was growing up, there were even fewer women in this industry. And so when I went to engineering school for my undergraduate degree to college, there were 3 women in a class of 80. So oh, wow. You can imagine, like, that was a minority. That was definitely a minority. And when I went to Stanford, it was less than 10% were women. So it was still a pretty hefty minority. And a lot of them quit after the master's degree. So there were very few. I think there were like 3 of us left in the PhD program. So it's, you know, I had to basically stop thinking along gender lines and just think about, I love this. This is what I want to do, and nobody's going to stop me. And that's been kind of the motto. My father was a scientist, and when I was little, he read me the story about Marie Curie, who was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize in both chemistry and physics. She discovered radium. From there, we have X-ray technology. She developed the first X-ray machines in World War I. She drove them around so that soldiers could get diagnosed and operated on properly. So to me, she was like this amazing hero. She came from Poland to France. She went from rejection to rejection to rejection, and she just did it, you know, and she never even thought about it. And it was all about hard work. And so I had that role model, you know, from long ago, and I kind of stuck with it. And now that I'm older, I want to give that back. So I go and give STEM talks to young girls. And, you know, nothing's impossible. You just have to dream it, you know?
Yes, absolutely. What I'm proud to see is more of the STEM conversation and seeing more women in STEM and studying STEM in general.
Exactly. And also in computer science and other disciplines that we normally don't think about, everything from geology to biology. And what's amazing is if you look at medical school, half of them are now women. So that's been amazing progress. Yeah. So that's very exciting to kind of over the last 20 years to have seen that happen. And engineering today, like where I'm from in Canada, a lot of the disciplines are about 40% women now. So we're there, we're getting there.
Yes, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it's due to people such as yourself who just keep going, just keep making things happen. And then you launched your own company. Tell us about Codex, please.
So I launched it 3 years ago. I think it was, you know, looking back, it was probably a moment of insanity, right? What is an electrical engineer going to do in skincare? And part of it was from a frustration that when my son was born and he had an allergy to phenoxyethanol, nobody could tell me why or what or how it was used. And so it was, you know, just there's one of these people who, when I flew around and I, you know, had time in an airport, I'd go and, you know, mostly, you know, just look at stuff in the duty free because at the time I couldn't afford any of it. But, you know, and I'd read all these claims on all these beautiful, fancy packages, and I'd be like, this must be like a miracle in this jar, right? And as I started getting more and more into beauty, I started realizing, what do these words actually mean? Like, what does this product actually do? And I started writing to some of these companies like, can I see your clinical data? You know, it's the kind of thing in pharmaceutical you take for granted, right? That might through a clinical trial. And that's when I found out that, yes, even though the FDA regulates cosmetics, can you believe companies need to have, you know, they can write whatever they want. If they get caught, then they get slapped, but there's no mechanism by which they have to pass through some kind of gateway for safety or for performance. And to me, that was like a huge, huge shock, like a massive shock.
So when you say they basically, from what I'm hearing, they were just putting things on the labels and making claims that could not be substantiated. So what happens when you, the female scientist, starts reaching out to these companies? I mean, I would feel, or I would assume that the response couldn't been like, oh, well, yes, let us give you all this information. It would seem that those doors, they'd be like, lady, if you do not go away and stop bothering us. What was the response?
Exactly. And it was like, it's confidential. It's our intellectual property. And it's like, wait a second, you're claiming your product does something, but then where's the proof, or how do you back it up? Like whenever, you know, even if when you buy a car, right? You go to the dealer and you have the piece of consumption and it has a system, and or when you buy a cell phone, it has like, here's the memory, here's the battery life, you know, or a laptop, here's the processor. There's data like about, you know, even a microwave or a refrigerator, right? And so
how many watts?
reason that cosmetics, it's just a claim. Like you said, it's this beautiful label, flowery language, you know, it'll do everything from making your toast to making you, you know, lose 20 years off your face in the morning. So that kind of made me wonder, you know, I've spent 20 years of my life measuring things, and it was like, well, why does nobody like measure it and publish it? And so this year, you know, it took us 2 years to get there and to do all these measurements, but that's why every single one of our boxes now has what we call an efficacy panel, right? Like you get a box of cereal or Oreo cookies, it will have the nutrition facts, right? Or a box of vitamins. So why not skincare? Why not show people what it does? And so this will be interesting because, you know, we're the first. We'll see if other people follow, but then don't tell me yours is better if you can't show me the data. You know what I mean?
Yes, but what's so interesting is when you just showed that to me, I was like, don't all of the skincare products have it? But looking at it, it's like, you know what? That's correct. They don't. The only thing you see with those is food products tell you the ingredients on it. But skincare products, I definitely have not seen it at all. That's very interesting and enlightening.
Exactly. And so this way, you know, if you look at it, you can say, okay, and I'm going to get this amount of hydration, this amount of protection for my skin barrier, this amount of firming, and it quantifies it. And so what's amazing to me is, so for the last 20, 30 years, the industry, like all the dermatologists doing research, all the cosmetic chemists doing the research, they have standardized tools. So you go to like a testing lab and they're like, we have a cardiometer, we have a tevometer. So all these things have names and they just list it off and go, look at our capability. We have all this. And so you can in fact compare results from lab to lab. But nobody in the industry talks about it. And it's kind of like, it's crazy. You know, don't you want to know how your stuff works? And then it kind of makes you wonder, well, if you don't measure it, you don't know. And if you don't know, you don't care. And it's kind of like, I can't ethically put a product up there and not know what it does, right?
Right, absolutely. But what made you decide? I see the problem, you know, and as entrepreneurs, that's what we always talk about is you see the problem and you just have to find a solution. But in my mind, why is not the solution? Like some people just all of a sudden like go towards like laws, like they go in and they talk to Congress and there has to be a law that makes sure that this doesn't happen and that skincare is protected. No, instead you create your own company. Why that direction? What made you go into just, I'll do it myself?
Right. Because I watched other companies try and not get anywhere. So a great example of that was Beauty Counter. They were one of the first clean beauty companies in dollars. They were on Capitol Hill lobbying for the same ingredients to be outlawed in the US as they are in Europe. There are different standards between here and Europe, and they spent about 10 years lobbying and they got absolutely fat. And so I figured, you know what? If the politicians don't want to see it, or they're too busy solving other problems, and the FDA certainly right now is really busy making sure we have vaccines and other things, and you know their highest priority is for new drugs to come out and not kill people. So you know what, the consumer has an incredible amount of power. So let's educate the consumer, let's empower the consumer, and let's have the consumer create this change. Because if they demand it, like if they start writing to brands saying, hey, I want to see this panel on your box, then, or I won't buy your product, that will start the change. And because again, it's kind of, even though it's FDA regulated, but it's like self-enforced. There's, unless you know, there were some hand sanitizers that turn people blind, that's when the FDA steps in and like says, you are no longer selling this in the US, you know, manufactured in Mexico.
But that's after the fact though. That's after the fact. I mean, it's one of those things where the damage is already done, but you could have stepped in earlier and said, do it a different way.
Exactly. And so that's why we want to bring this transparency so that the users know what to ask for, right? Like like when I first started looking at skincare products, I had no idea what questions to ask. So we want to empower consumers to ask the manufacturers the right questions, and then they can make an informed choice. And then the manufacturer can decide whether or not they want to share the data. And obviously this drives transparency in the industry. And so we figure, let's just go educate people. I believe that people are smart. I believe people are totally capable of making good decisions for themselves if they have the information, right? And then basically you let the market, it's a market, a capitalist market, so let the market decide. And that's how large companies, get built, is you solve a problem. And
Yes.
so we're trying to solve this problem because also, everybody's money is hard earned, right? So when you buy a product, you want it to work. Like you don't want to throw out $50 or $90. And so this way you can go, in the future, you can go to the store and say, okay, this is 40%, this is 60%. Okay, the cheaper one is like $30, this one's $50. And then you can make an informed decision saying, okay, I'm willing to pay the extra $20 because I have really dry skin, so I need that extra hydration. Or you can say, you know what, my skin's fine. I'm not going to pay the 50, I'm going to pay 30. So again, it's empowering the consumer.
I love being empowered. I love to be able to make informed decisions. So Dr. Barb, how many items, how many products are in your line? And I believe you just introduced 2 new products, correct?
We did. So we have 5 in our hydration collection. So those are basically like a treatment cream for dry skin and skin that basically is flaky. We have a makeup removing oil that doesn't strip. I know it sounds weird to remove your makeup with an oil, but makeup's fatty and fats like fats. So it actually is very good at removing makeup. We have a facial oil for people who need additional hydration. We actually won the Oprah Award for that 2 years ago. So proud of that.
I would be proud too.
Then we have an eye gel cream that just, the high tea award over in Ireland. So that's like a cooling eye gel for when you get those, when you get those puffy eyes. So it basically helps, the arnica helps the blood flow, and then that basically makes your eyes depuff. And then the last product in that series is an exfoliating wash, which is kind of my favorite. It has these little jojoba grains, so no microplastics, everything is biodegradable, flushes down the shower, no problem, for the fish, doesn't get back into, fetuses of pregnant women, so totally natural. And then the new line that we launched, and that's what you have, is there's a moisturizer and there's a night cream that we launched in March. And then we're just launching a serum and a radiance mist. And this is our inflammation line, and it's there to help heal and protect your skin barrier. And when you think about it, everybody's skin, unless you live totally in the middle of nowhere, is exposed to some degree of pollution. There can be dust. That dust can have chemicals on it from car exhaust or from industrial exhaust. Wind's really good at carrying stuff really far away. And then obviously UV exposure from the sun. And I know we all say we wear SPF religiously, and we usually don't, or we forget, or whatever. And so there's what's called the exosome, and that's kind of the total exposure of all the bad stuff that causes inflammation. And inflammation, the kind of science word for it, is reactive oxidative stress, because oxygen likes to go scavenge, and that can cause havoc. And so so your skin barrier is the outermost layer of your skin. And it's really interesting. It's like 10 to 20 microns thick. And to put it into perspective for people, that's about 1/3 of the diameter of a human hair.
Oh, wow.
So imagine something that big. That is what's between you, your body, and the environment. So that is our protective layer. Underneath it is the epidermis that has blood vessels, nerve endings, all that other stuff. So it's actually amazing. The skin is just this amazing organ. But if that gets damaged, it gets leaky. And if it gets leaky, you start losing water. And if you start losing water, now you get dehydrated skin, and you can start getting, first of all, irritated, flaky, itchy. And if you don't treat it, that can lead to dermatitis, that can cause psoriasis. So there's all kinds of issues that happen when your skin barrier gets compromised. So this is basically the fixer-upper. for that 10 to 20 micron layer. It also creates a coating on top of your skin to protect you from the pollution. So you can think of it as it's like a barrier cream. And so it will react with those pollutants before they can go into your skin and react with your cells. So it's kind of a combination that the cream splits up. The oily part stays at the surface of your skin and protects it from these chemicals. And the bottom part, the water part, goes through this thin skin barrier and delivers these antioxidants. Like vitamin C is a common antioxidant. These happen to be from Chile. They're a little bit more powerful than vitamin C. And so that helps heal whatever stress is in the skin barrier. So then you are protected against the outside.
Wow, I'm impressed. I'm definitely impressed. And I've just been sitting here staring at your skin. Usually I can even tell whether you have makeup on, don't have makeup on. Your skin is flawless.
I have lipstick. Yeah, no, wow. I have lipstick and
but your skin is amazing.
And honestly, I use 2 products. And so I use my wash, and then I use the day cream. And recently, you know, I'm 50. I'll be 50 in a couple of weeks. And so I don't know if you can see my wrinkles.
I can see the gray hairs, but your skin is beautiful. It's clear, it's glowing. Okay, so do you mind if we talk about some of these products? Because I was like, they are so amazing, but I do everything wrong. I like mix the cauldron wrong. So I'm like, I don't know what order, and I wanted to actually learn more about them. Do you mind if we do that?
Totally, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Okay, and then I gotta find, you said you use 2 products. So I gotta find, because you know, I don't do a lot of skincare or makeup. Right now, I just have on lipstick, even though I'm a little shiny in some spots. But okay, so then I gotta find out the order too. So we have, let me do it on this side. We have the bar, we have the soap, right?
So that's for your body. So we don't recommend you wash your face with that. Okay. Why? Soap is alkaline, so pH is high. Your body tolerates it better, but the face wash, if you have a green tube, the exfoliating face wash is much better for washing your face because it's pH matched to your skin. Most skin has a pH kind of between 4.5 and 5.5. Interestingly, men have a slightly more acidic pH, so we can say, yeah, they're more lemony, they're more bitter. Women tend to have a more higher acidic, more alkaline. And if your skin pH is over 6, you tend to acne. So pH is actually important, and your skin likes to kind of be in 4.5 to 5.5. So our exfoliating wash is in that range, so it doesn't disturb the pH of your skin. Exactly.
Okay, so this is the exfoliating wash. I wish you could see it better.
I just keep it in the shower. Yeah, I keep it in the shower. You put like a quarter-sized blob, and you just basically, you know, wash your face with it. Like, it's really not complicated.
Okay, I overcomplicate things. I was like, what order do I do all of these things in? I have to make sure I do it right. So that was the, okay, so we have a brightening moisturizer.
Yeah, and then do you have the serum as well?
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the
little
magic.
Guy. That's the one we're just launching?
No. No.
Okay, so, yeah. I'll send you one of these. And then I'll send you one of the Radiance Mists because they're launching next week. So the next, that's the thing that absorbs more deeply in your skin. And the layering is important because you don't want that fatty layer of the moisturizing cream before it, because otherwise it'll just sit on top of it. So it won't do you any good. So then now, you know, I apply the serum. So now I'm up to 3 products. And then I take the moisturizer, and in the evening, when you're done, that's when you wash your face with that first. So basically when it contacts water, it forms like this milky substance, and that's what removes your makeup. So you basically put it in your hands, you warm it up a little bit because it's not fun to put like cold stuff on your face. And with lukewarm water, you just basically rub your face, and that removes the makeup. And then when you take your washcloth, you basically the makeup just peels off your skin. So it just comes right off. You don't have to rub. You don't have to be violent with it. Now, if you wear a lot of mascara, which I don't, but I have some friends that they do like 6 or 7 coats of mascara, you'll need to wash your eyes a couple times. So that's a lot of makeup. But
Yes.
yeah, so and that's what you do in the evening. And then again, you can put the night cream on, or
Yes.
if you're, if you want to prevent wrinkles, then you basically do the serum again and then the night cream. So the cream always goes last.
Okay,
and
so this is the
then
night
if
cream.
it's super dry,
Can't see it.
or it's winter time, and yeah, that's the one. And it looks like this out of the box.
Okay, and so after you finish,
you pop the cap and then you just pump it. So it just pumps.
Just pump it.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that this is an airless pump. And this is important because it means that nothing comes back inside the tube. It's a one directional way. So it just pumps product out and you won't get product or contamination. So even if you want to like rub it all over your face, that contamination is not going to come back into the product. So I hate jars. Jars are to me like totally unsanitary. And so this is why we went with these airless pumps. Plus it delivers the same amount on each pump. So once you work out, okay, I want 2 pumps or 3 pumps, you know exactly how much product you need and you don't waste anything.
Okay, so the night cream goes on every night.
Yep.
Okay, so even if we do our ritual in the morning, in the shower, at the end of the night, we just rub on the night cream and go to sleep. Okay, do we have to rub it off, take it off? You know, I'm a little
exactly.
Okay.
No, because in the morning you're gonna, wash your face again in the shower, right? So, and did you know that you lose the most water at night when you sleep? That's when you actually lose the most water from your body and your face. So that's why it's good to put the night cream on. And if you have a super, super dry complexion, then the fill is kind of that last protective layer.
Okay, well, tonight I'm going to start my night cream ritual. And then when I need some more, I'm going to codexbeauty.com and pick up some more. So we have 2 more, Dr. Barbara. We have the skin superfood.
So that's my all-time favorite for like everywhere.
Okay.
Hands, maskne, dry knees, cracked feet. My dad, who's 86, uses it because his circulation's not that good. It's what saves his feet. So any place where you have super, super dry skin, the superfood is an amazing treatment because it combines Irish plants. And so some of the plants help you shed the dry outer layers. Some of them soothe, some of them moisturize, and then some of them form a protective gel that again locks in the moisture. So that's like your dry patch, treatment cream. Or you can use it as your night cream. Like if you don't have inflammation and you're not, you're young, like you're 18 to maybe 30, you don't need the inflammation protection. You haven't had that exposure to all this pollution and sunshine yet. So you can simplify and use a cheaper product. So again, we're trying to make all of this accessible to people.
So would you say that the skin superfood, is it a lotion or is it just for certain areas?
It's a cream. So it can be used as a face cream. It can be used as a hand cream. So like when I started in the winter sanitizing my hands all the time, like literally like every 5 minutes you're sanitizing your hands, it was always like sanitize superfood, sanitize superfood. And then we started making little versions that you could just keep in your pocket. And that saved my hands because otherwise, my knuckles were turning red and peeling and it was just horrific. So it's like your protection cream for wherever, face, hands, body. If you have a dry patch on your shoulder, it's also good for cat scratches and oven burns.
There's a story behind that. Someone somewhere was scratched by a cat, but we're not going to go into that right now.
Now, my son, whenever he plays with this cat and, they sometimes roughhouse, he's like, Mom, I need the superfood. He scratched me again. So it helps from prevention of scars because of the comfrey in there. And I'm a total klutz. So whenever I bake anything, no matter what kitchen gloves I wear, I always manage to burn myself on part of the oven. And so it's like, oh, good time.
Wow. So our last one, the nourishing facial oil. Nourishing facial oil. What are we doing with?
So this is for people with ultra dry skin. So
Okay.
if you're like one of these people who's constantly flaking, what the oil does is it's a dry oil, so it's not greasy, and it'll lock in the moisture. So oils don't moisturize, you need water to moisturize. So that's why you need creams that are based on water to moisturize, but then to lock it in to, again, kind of create that seal, you basically use the oil. You can also use it kind of as a mask once a week if you want to just kind of really soften your skin, or you can mix it. See, that's the thing. If you want something a little bit more rich, you can take that oil, take a couple drops and mix it with any of the creams. So you can kind of tailor your routine to what works best for your own skin.
I like that. And so many options, so many things. But we're going to do is I'm going to start my routine, my regimen tonight, and then we see how everything winds up. Now, how do you find new products? How do you come up with new ideas? Because when you were talking about dry skin and different, I'm thinking, well, maybe they'll have a shampoo one day. I mean, are you looking to expand?
We sure are. So our next stop is going to be acne. So what we want to do is we want to make skin solutions. So I don't see ourselves as a beauty company because beauty is healthy skin. And healthy skin is radiant, healthy skin glows, and healthy skin means you don't have to pile massive amounts of makeup on it. And so, and less is more. So hydration is like the basic thing. If you don't hydrate your skin, it's going to age more rapidly. And as we get older, hydration becomes even more important because our skin's just not as good at retaining the moisture. Inflammation is kind of the next issue that causes aging. So we figured, well, let's start with prevention. And then a lot of people, believe it or not, acne is on the rise in adults. And I don't know if it's the masks or if it's our diet or it's the stress or what it is, but more and more women especially are getting adult onset acne. So acne is our next stop because that's kind of debilitating, right? Like if you break out, you don't want to go out, you don't want to be on Zoom, then you're piling the foundation on, which makes it worse again. So we want to solve that problem. So that'll be early next year. And then after that, we want to focus, don't laugh, on athletes.
Athletes,
we want to make protection creams, because up to now, a lot of male athletes have had baby powder, maybe a couple creams, but they don't really have anything in their toolbox. Like if you're a cyclist or you're a football player or, you fence or you ski, and you have helmets on that are constantly rubbing your face. And then you have sensitive body parts that are constantly being rubbed by, protection guards. That can lead to skin problems. And so we just want to create a very simple to use set of solutions for that. And after that, my big other pet peeve is feminine intimate products, because a lot of them are super harsh and they strip the natural microbiome in there. And that's why we all get, and especially as we get older and we don't have the same hydration, we get yeast infections. And there is nothing more annoying to a woman than a yeast infection. So we just want to solve problems, right?
Right. Wow. Wow. I like that. So we have the acne, we have for the athletes, and then we're going to take care of some other areas. So when you say athletes, is that like athlete's foot or the prevention of athlete's foot? Because if they keep
the prevention, again, we're about prevention. Well, we also have for the acne, we're developing a scar reducer. So if you've already had acne and you have those scars and you want to minimize them, but ultimately, if we can prevent people from having skin problems, then we're making their lives better and easier.
But it seems like at the root, because the one word that you keep coming back to is hydration, 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 hydration. And your skin, if nothing else, definitely looks hydrated.
And I have measurement instruments to prove it. So I always have fun, we do the clinical trials, but it's always fun. Everyone thinks I'm nuts because I have, the clinical instruments at my house. And it's kind of like, I want to see this with my own eyes. Like I have my third-party data, but I also want to be able to measure it. And someday I hope that we can also bring consumer tools so that people can measure it themselves. That would be like my big dream as a measurement, kind of as a measurement nerd.
Yes, but if you can measure it, why can't everyone measure it?
Exactly. They should. Well, that's the point. They should be. And I don't know why they don't. I mean, because then how do you know how your product works? And they'll go, well, we know all our ingredients. And it's like, yeah, but every cosmetic chemist knows that when you formulate, you put stuff together. You know, anyone who cooks knows this, right?
Right.
Depending on how you put it together, the order, how you bake it, you know, that's the process of making the product. The ingredients can completely change their effectiveness. There can be synergy, dyssynergy. You know, you don't know what the end product is, and it's such complicated chemistry that you can't calculate it. So you've got to measure it. Like you take the end product and you see what it does.
So is your skin line, is Codex Beauty for every skin color, every nationality? It works exactly the same.
Yes. Well, there are differences in the thicknesses of skin layers between different races. And so the aging mechanisms are different, but everybody needs hydration. Like men, women, you know, 15 through 105. If you get dehydrated, you're in trouble. And so we actually we run our clinical trials on populations with different skin types, because to me, that's important. Again, how can you claim all skin types and not measure it, right? So we go from like, there's different scales, like it's called a Fitzpatrick scale. And so I'd be kind of a 1, which is kind of like that, you know, flowery, pasty, pale white color. And then someone like from Mauritius or, you know, Namibia would be a 6. So that's kind of that incredibly rich, super dark chocolatey color, like a 70% cacao color. And then everybody else is in between. And so we make sure that we actually test on all these different skin types because we want to make sure the products act the same way. And then down the road, as the company develops, I actually think there's an underserving. And again, because a lot of clinical trials were done in Europe on European skin, there's not enough information. And, you know, I think the American dermatologists are starting to wake up to this fact of how to treat the different types of skin differently, because if your layers are different, you know, it's just biology, right? This isn't racism. This is just science, right? You know, you're not going to say woman has the same biology as a man. So we just need to recognize that, understand that, and then we can further optimize the solutions for these different kinds of skin. And to me as a scientist, that's incredibly interesting. And I think, you know, there's a lot there to discover. You know, how is aging different? How is hydration different? Do the measurement tools work the same way? And so we've got a long way to go. There's a lot of stuff we need to figure out.
It's interesting to me. I'm not even a scientist, but just when you're explaining, I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Different layers of skin based on the race. Wow, that was definitely interesting to me. Now, Dr. Barber, we've talked about so many different areas. One of the things that I specifically wanted to ask you today is where, I mean, we talked about the products, but where do you see the company going? Where do you see it growing? Are you doing any type of give back programs with the company? What's going on?
So first of all, we're going to carbon neutrality. So I'm hoping that in the next year or two we'll be carbon negative as a company. So all of our tubes are made out of sugarcane, and sugar takes carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So this tube just fixed its weight in carbon dioxide. So it's helping prevent climate change. And sugarcane is also a renewable resource, and it's highly efficient. So to give you perspective, a football field of sugarcane, right? So that's not that much sugarcane, can make 300,000 of these tubes.
Oh, wow.
So that's more than all the products right now that we sell in a year. And that's one football field of sugarcane. And so that sustainability is a huge part of it. And then figuring out, you know, these are actually going now to being a single material. So there is no reason not to recycle it. So making sure, and then we're going to start making bottles out of recycled plastic. And that way we kind of, I don't want to be creating any garbage, net garbage. So that's zero waste is a longer term goal because it's much harder to do. And a lot of companies don't do it right, or they don't calculate it and they lie about it. So it's data, right? It always goes back to data. Show me the data. And then from a humanistic point of view, I mean, we've been, even though it has nothing to do with skincare, we've been supporting No Kid Hungry. That's basically, you know, having had a child now, I can't imagine what it would be like to not be able to put food on the table for my child. And so that's been kind of my huge pet peeve right now. And especially during COVID, I mean, my heart goes out to all these people. We also support, you know, education. So my other big pet peeve is supporting Black girls code, because I want to see education. I want to see people empowered. I want to see people have careers. What we talked about at the beginning, right? To make those kinds of things possible, to make them realize this isn't so hard. I can do this. And that's kind of the beginning of a transformative process. And then since we get these plants, for example, from Chile, we also have what we call, it's called an Indigenous royalty program. So 1% of our net sales actually go into a pool, and then the Mapuche tribe that harvests these get that back. And then our local kind of interface there in Chile works with them to figure out what they need. So right now, we're putting internet into school. So go figure, Ashanta. They have one-room classrooms, grade 1 through grade 12. Can you imagine? That's like 100 years ago here in the United States. So
Right.
all these kids from the village have one room where they all are with one teacher, and they have not been to school for almost a full year because of COVID. And since they have no internet, they have no way of learning anything. And so we want to start wiring up some of these places, and then basic things like drinking water, places where they can go when they're harvesting for shade, you know, basic things. And so by going around the world and using plants from these various regions, we want to give back to the indigenous peoples, because they're, you know, they're the forgotten ones. And with COVID, if you think also about it, they've had massive death rates and they're losing their tribal knowledge. And that's incredibly valuable knowledge. It's not something we talk about very much in the United States. It's also happening to Native Americans in the United States. And we're going to lose an entire generation. And with an oral tradition, if nothing's written down, I mean, there's an immense wealth of knowledge. Like, to give you an example, in California, we've had all these forest fires, right?
Right.
And if you look at the areas of California that have been managed by the native tribes, that understand how to clear brush and how to basically maintain these forests, and that are constantly fighting the California Forestry Service because they're like, you can't be doing this. And they're like, no, we're just maintaining our forest the way we've maintained it for hundreds of years. The fires burn around these patches.
Right.
So again, as a scientist, it's like, oh my God, we should be learning from these people, listening to these people, you know, having them consult to help us prevent forest fires. So, I mean, I just don't want to see the loss of all this indigenous knowledge.
I didn't even think about that. You're so interesting. Every time we speak, I learn something more, something new from you. I just want to go back to one question because I was about to wrap it up. I'm like, no, I have to ask this. We keep talking about hydration. Is it enough to just drink water?
Actually, if you're young, then technically, yes. As you get older, it becomes harder. So you do need some help. Like once you're over 30, things just don't quite work the same way. They don't, your body's just not as efficient. And so there, the moisturizer will definitely help. For some people, that happens in their 20s. Some people are good till they're 40, definitely. But honestly, it's hard to drink enough water. Like, I mean, I have a bottle with this little chip thing on it, and it's constantly like going beep, beep, beep. And it's like, shut up. You know, it's like, I know I need to drink more water, but I don't want to drink more water. So keeping very well hydrated is actually really hard.
It's hard for me. What I do is you have to beep, beep, beep. But I download the water reminder app to my phone so that it can remind me to drink water. And then as soon as it goes off, the notification goes off, I'm like, shut up. You're like, just, you know, I don't, and I definitely don't drink water. That I don't do. And so I just wait a couple of days, uninstall it from my phone. But yes, at 45, I need to figure out more ways. Or actually, you know what? Just pick up a glass of water and drink it. Maybe I'll start there.
I know it sounds so easy, and we're all, you know, I mean, I'm sure there are many, you know, many people who are good at it, but I'm not one of those. Yeah,
I am not either. So I guess I'll start my regimen to help me, get through this process. Oh, this has been a pleasure.
But honestly, drinking water and getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night will do more for you than any skincare I can ever develop. Okay. And I'm admitting that. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being honest with our audience. We definitely appreciate that. Now, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who's watching the show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
So I think we said hydration is critical. Both drinking water and then applying moisturizers. Minimize your skincare routine. You really don't need to do that much. A basic cleanser that's pH balanced and a moisturizer is probably good enough. If you're over 30, you might want to look at an anti-inflammation, an alternative to vitamin C. As you get older, it gets more complicated. But again, the less you put on and the less you do, the better it is for your skin barrier, the better it is for your microbiome. Our biology is pretty damn good at protecting itself. So less is more. And I should be saying, buy my products. No, buy only what you need. And you'll also make less waste that way. So you'll create less garbage. So it's good for your skin and it's good for the planet.
Yes. And if people want to pick up a couple of, your products and get their own little skincare regimen started, where can they go, Dr. Barbara?
They can go to our website, codexbeauty.com. They can go to skinstore.com. They can go to Saks or Bergdorf's. But honestly, our website or Skin Store are the fastest way to go.
Yes, and go ahead and pick up your products. I know I have mine. I'll be starting all of my little regimens. Can't see it up here. Regimen today. We'll get that started. But I definitely want to thank you for being a guest on today's episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. I definitely appreciate it. And to everyone who tuned in to watch the show live and to everyone who is watching it in the archives, I definitely appreciate your support. But as always, please don't just watch the show. Please don't just share the show. Support our guests. Go ahead to codexbeauty.com, pick up some of the products and change your life. And if you're interested in being a guest, please visit my website at AskSharifah.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.